Hi, my name is Nick, and in this tutorial, you are going to learn how to set up a seamless Linux development environment that will run alongside Windows. If you're a developer who also enjoys gaming or requires software that only runs in Windows, but you want to learn more about Linux, then this tutorial is perfect for you because you won't ever have to dual boot again. The software that we're going to use to do this is called vmware, and the version that we're going to use is free. vmware is labeled as a hypervisor, which is just a fancy term to say that it's a type of software that allows you to run a virtualized operating system. You might be thinking, virtualization sounds like it might be slow. Well, it was slow maybe 10 years ago, but nowadays it's very performant. I've been using this setup for full-time development for the last couple of years, and it's been awesome. Let me give you a quick demonstration which shows you the end result of what you'll learn how to do by following this tutorial. What you're looking at here is Windows. It's what I have installed on my main hard drive, and this is what comes up when I turn on my workstation. Everything is normal so far, right? Now let's say I want to open up a Linux terminal. Well, that's easy. All I have to do is go to my taskbar down here and click the black icon, and now I have a Linux terminal. I can do this because I have VMware running Linux in the background. I have VMware configured in such a way that it lets me pin Linux applications to my taskbar, and the Linux applications themselves run as standalone windows. I can also copy and paste across operating systems and move files around. It is the ultimate experience. In fact, I spend about 95% of my time using Linux applications. Even my main Firefox browser that you can see down here is running in a VM. This also has a security benefit because I'm less likely to get malware since the VM is running in its own sandbox. Okay, so let's get to it. The first thing you'll want to do is download VMware Player 7, which is free. I've included a link to this page in the description. You'll want to download the player for Windows. So click the first download button now. Then just go ahead and save it. In VM terms, Windows is our host operating system, and Linux is the guest operating system. We'll be running VMware on the host operating system, thus we need the Windows version. Once that finishes downloading, you'll want to go ahead and install it. I already have it installed, but you should know how to install Windows applications by now. Just click yes to everything that it asks, unless it tries to trick you into installing some crappy browser extension, in which case click no to that. During the installation, it's probably going to say that it needs to kill your internet connection for a second while it installs a virtual network adapter. That's completely normal, and that is something you only have to do once. At this point, you should pause the video until you have VMware installed. Now that you have VMware installed, we need one more thing, and that's a guest operating system to run. There's dozens of different versions of Linux, and I've tried a lot of them, but my favorite is xubuntu. You may have heard of Ubuntu already. Xubuntu is a much lighter weight version of Ubuntu, but the underlying OS is about the same, which means you can install software on xubuntu in the same way that you would on Ubuntu. This is great because if you ever follow a guide for Ubuntu, you'll be able to follow along with xubuntu without getting stuck. I also found that xubuntu runs really well within VMware. Some of the other distributions that I tried were buggy when running seamlessly inside of VMware. So now let's download xubuntu. The link to this page is included in the description. You'll want to grab version 14 because unfortunately version 15 is not quite compatible with VMware yet. One important thing to note is you don't even want to get the latest 14 release because there's another incompatibility with it in VMware. So head over to the mirror download section and then pick a link that's near your location. In my case, I'm in the United States. Then scroll down here in the list and look for one for 14.042. And you'll want to grab this one here, which is the AMD 64 ISO, and it's about 950 megs. This is the 64-bit version, and don't be alarmed by the AMD name. It also works on Intel CPUs. This file is pretty big, so it might take quite some time to download. While it downloads, we can go over configuring VMware, so please open VMware now. You should see something similar to what's on my screen, but in your case there won't be anything listed here on the left side. The first thing that we need to do is create a new virtual machine, so just go ahead and click that. Then make sure this bottom option here is checked off because we're going to be installing the operating system later. Then for the guest operating system, we'll just choose Linux and we'll leave the version as Ubuntu 64-bit. Then go ahead and click Next. And then we can just name the virtual machine whatever we want. In my case, I'm going to go with YouTube Demo. Next up, we have the location, and that's very important because if you have an SSD, then you'll want to make sure you put it on your SSD since it will greatly improve the performance of the virtual machine. In my case, I'm going to put it on a storage drive since I'll be deleting it after this video. So here's how you could put it onto a different drive. Then go ahead and click Next. Now you need to set a size. If you plan to develop full-time within the VM and add a bunch of applications, then you'll likely want to change something above the default value of 20 gigs. You'll also want to change the option here to make sure that the virtual disk is a single file. Once you're happy with the settings here, click Next. Now we can just review our settings here, but we're not going to click Finish just yet. Let's go ahead and go to Customize Hardware. A lot of these settings will depend on what specs your workstation has and what you want to use the VM for. If you get lost on a couple of these settings, then don't worry about it because you can always go back and change them later, even after you make the VM. So let's start with memory. I recommend giving the VM 4 gigs of RAM if you can afford to do it. But if your main system only has 4 gigs total, then feel free to give it 2 gigs. So you can just either type it in here or drag up the bar. I'm going to go for 4 gigs. Next up, let's check out the processor count. If you have, let's say, a quad core, then give the VM 3. This way, if you do something intensive within your VM, your entire system won't come to a grinding halt, since one CPU core will always be free. If you happen to have something like a dual core, then just give it 1 instead. Also, if you're using an Intel i5 or higher, then you'll want to enable this middle option here, because it's going to greatly improve performance. However, be warned that this may require you to enable this option within your workstation's BIOS too. You can Google this topic on your own, since everyone's BIOS is a little bit different. Also, you only have to worry about doing this if the VM fails to start, so don't worry about it just yet. Next up, we'll take a look at the CD options here, which you can just keep as the default, and then we'll check out the network adapter. For this one, you'll want to change the network adapter from NAT to bridged. This will give your VM an IP address on your local network, and you'll be able to access it without having to do any port forwarding. Next up, we have USB, sound, and printer settings, which we can just leave at the default. Now let's just take a look at the display settings. You'll want to make sure that 3D acceleration is enabled, and then if you happen to have multiple monitors, you can either leave this at the default, which will use the window settings that you have. In my case, I have dual monitors, so I'll just leave this setting as is. Lastly, we have graphics memory. This will greatly depend on your video card, but in my case it has 2 gigs total, so it recommends about 1/3 of that, which is what I would recommend too, but you can always go less than that if you want. So once you're happy with all the settings here, just go ahead and click Close, and then go ahead and click Finish. You'll see here on the left that the virtual machine was created. Chances are your xubuntu download is finished by now, so go check that out. If it's complete, then go ahead and click Play Virtual Machine. Then just go ahead and click Yes to this dialog. After a few seconds, the VM will fail to boot, which is normal because we haven't told it how to install xubuntu yet. VMware will prompt you on the bottom to insert the CD. So click Change CD Settings. Then just go ahead and choose Use ISO Image File and browse for the file that you downloaded. In my case, that's going to be in the Downloads folder on my E drive. Then just select the xubuntu installation ISO that we downloaded before. Once that's done, click OK, and then restart VM. At this point, Xubuntu's installer is going to begin in a few seconds. We'll keep that notification on the bottom there for now. So after a few more seconds then, it's going to prompt us to install Xubuntu. So let's go ahead and click that now. We'll want to enable download updates while installing, but we'll avoid clicking this one. So go ahead and click Continue. Next up, we're going to erase disk and install Xubuntu. Keep in mind that this is happening inside of a virtual machine, so it's not really going to wipe your disk. So go ahead and click Install now. Then we just have to confirm that we want to make the changes to disk, so go ahead and click Continue. Chances are Xubuntu picked your location in the world, so when you're happy with where it thinks you live, click Continue. Then just pick your keyboard layout. If you speak English natively, then you won't have to change anything. When you're ready, click Continue. Now we just need to set up an initial user account. So go ahead and put in your name. My name is Nick, so I'll use that. Then you might as well pick a different computer name if you want, but you don't have to. I'll just go with YouTube Demo. Then your name should automatically be filled out here, which is the lowercase version of your name. And you'll want to pick a strong password. I'm just going to use the password of password so I don't forget it. Then if you're interested, you can have it automatically log in or require your password. You can even encrypt your home directory if you want to, but I'm not going to enable that. So when you're happy with the settings here, click Continue. At this point, xubuntu will install. This process will take anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes, depending on how fast your workstation is. I'm going to pause the video now, and I'll meet you back when you have to perform any actions. Okay, so at this point, it's asking us to restart now, so let's do that. After a few seconds here, it's going to start rebooting, and if you get a screen that looks like this, then just go ahead and click Enter. That's going to kick off the reboot. Then xubuntu is going to reboot like normal, and in a few seconds you should see the login prompt. Of course, it's taking a little bit longer now because I am recording at 1080p. Alright, here we go. So go ahead and enter your password from before and hit enter. At this point, we have successfully installed xubuntu. So let's click I finished installing down here. You're going to notice that there's a software updater up here, so go ahead and click that, and then just go to Remind Me Later. That's something you can do on your own after watching this tutorial. At this point, xubuntu is running, and this is what it normally looks like. It just runs inside of a window like any other application. That's something we need to fix, so let's go ahead and go to this player menu in the top left, and then go to the Manage menu, and go to Install VMware Tools. After a few seconds, you'll see a window pop up. This is a special program that we need to install, and it unlocks a lot of great functionality. It's going to let you share your clipboard and files between Windows and xubuntu. It's also going to let you run xubuntu in a special mode that makes it seamless. You'll want to go ahead and double-click the VMware zip file here, and then select the folder and click Extract. Then go ahead and choose the desktop option here on the left and click Extract. Then just click Close, and then you can close out this window as well as this window as well. And now you'll have a new VMware's Tool Distrib folder on your desktop, so double click that to open it. Then just right click anywhere down here where there's white stuff and go to Open Terminal here. Now we just need to run the install script, which we can do by typing sudo space dot /vmware hyphen install .pl space -d. And once you have all that typed out, press enter. And now it's going to ask you for your user's password. So go ahead and type in the password that you used to log in. And once it's in there, just hit enter. This is going to automatically install all the VMware tools that we need. That D flag makes it so that you don't have to sit here and click yes to about a million different options. This will take a few minutes to run. I'm going to pause the video now, and I'll meet you back when it's done. Okay, great. That actually went pretty fast. So the last thing that we need to do here is reboot the virtual machine. So just go over to this blue icon here in the top left and click it. Then click the power icon over here, and finally click Restart. That's going to begin the rebooting process on xubuntu like usual. And then, like before, in a few seconds, we're going to have to log in once more. Okay, great. So let's log in. We can also right-click on this folder and go to Delete, and then delete it because we don't need it anymore. Now, nothing really looks like it changed, but actually a lot changed. We can go to the player menu here and go to Unity mode. And when we click that, you'll notice now that it looks like the virtual machine just disappeared. You can access the xubuntu Start menu by moving your mouse above your Windows Start menu. That's going to pop up a little window here, which you can click, and now you have the xubuntu Start menu. For instance, let's go ahead and open up the Home folder. You can do that by left-clicking. Now, I happen to have my taskbar hidden here, but if I unhide it, you'll see that it opened the folder in my taskbar. You can actually go ahead and pin that to your taskbar if you want to, but I'm not going to do that myself because I already have it pinned over here on my main virtual machine. You'll also notice that you may have a different color border around your window. This is something that you can disable, and we'll soon do that in the VM settings. But it is one way for you to know that this window is running in a VM. Now, let's try sharing the clipboard. Inside of this folder, right-click anywhere down here, and then just go to Open Terminal here. That's going to open up a terminal, and then just move it off to the side somewhere. Then, on your Windows desktop, right-click somewhere and go to New, Text Document. Then just name the file whatever you want, and open it. If we go back here to the terminal, and select some text, and go to the Edit menu and copy, we can go here to the new text document, and go to Edit, Paste. So we just copy-pasted from the Linux VM into Windows. And if you go inside of this text document and start typing here, you can go ahead and copy that, and go back into the terminal here, and go to Paste. And now we just pasted from the host, which is Windows, into the xubuntu VM. Great, so that takes care of clipboard sharing. The last thing we need to do is enable folder sharing. So let's head over to the xubuntu Start menu, and then we'll just go to Exit Unity. And that's going to drop us back into the other view where it's no longer Unity mode. I'm also going to close this document here and not bother to save it, as well as delete it. So now within this VMware player, we'll want to go to the player menu again, and then go to Manage, and then go to Virtual Machine Settings. Some of these settings can be changed when the VM is on, but most require it to be off, such as here. You can't adjust the memory until you turn the VM off. But we're not going to mess with anything here. Instead, we're going to go to the Options tab, and before we get into sharing any folders, let's go ahead and click the Unity option, and then you can just uncheck Show Borders and Show Badges, and that's going to disable the border outline on Windows. But don't bother clicking OK yet. Let's head over to the shared folders. As you can see, it's disabled by default, so let's go ahead and choose Always Enabled. Then we'll click the Add button down here and click Next. And now it's saying, what path do you want to share on the host? So we can click Browse, and you can choose to share a folder or a drive. In my case, I'm going to share my entire D drive. So I'll click OK there, and I'll name this D. Then click Next. At this point, the drive is going to be shared, and if we wanted to, we can even make it read-only so the Linux guest can't write to it. But in this case, I'm going to leave that unchecked. Once you're happy with the settings, click Finish. The last thing that we have to do here is click OK, then go back over here to the blue icon, and go back to the logout button, and then restart. So after a couple seconds, Xubuntu will restart, and like usual, we're going to have to log in with our password. Then we'll just enable Unity mode, which we can actually do up here with this shortcut. Now let's go down here to the Xubuntu Start menu, and then go back to the Home folder. We'll head over to the File System, which is in the top left over here, and then we'll go to the Mount folder, the HGFS folder, and then here you should see the folder that you mounted before. In my case, it was D. So if we go inside of there, we can see all the files that are on my D drive. Let's try creating the file from the guest. So just right-click somewhere in here, then go to Create Document and Empty File, and we'll name this one From Guest, and then hit Enter. So that's going to create an empty file called From Guest. Now I'm going to go to my Windows Explorer, head over to the D drive, and you'll see that the From Guest file was created, and the host is able to access it. Now, if I were to make a new file in the host, then the guest would see it. But let me just go ahead and delete the file. So I'll just delete it. Then I'll minimize that and go back to the file manager here, and we'll see that it's still added, but it's actually gone. What we need to do is go to the View menu and then click Reload, and you'll notice that it disappeared. So that takes care of mounting a shared folder. There's one thing that you may want to do now, and that's to go back one directory and take this shared folder that you have, and then just drag it to the Places pane here on the left. This way, when you open up the Home folder, this shortcut's always going to be here, and you don't have to go finding it all the way in here. Lastly, before I wrap this up, I just want to warn you that This thing is mounted between your host and your guest, so if you accidentally delete all these files here, then they will be deleted on your host, so be very careful. So there you have it. Your Linux development environment is ready to rock, and now you can follow other Linux guides as if you were running Linux natively, because from xubuntu's perspective, you are. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please like it and subscribe if you did. If you have any questions or comments, then please leave them below. Also, if you want access to more tutorials or courses, check out my website and follow me on Twitter. You can find both links in the description below. Thanks for watching.